Okay, I can see if I'm on here. Oh, there I am. All right. I just wanted to say, Miss Jane, glad everybody can make it again. Did everybody get a packet? The new packet of words and everything. I know it's been kind of a long time between our last class and now, so I'm gonna go through everything really fast, and then we can ask questions afterwards. So I'm trying to make it as easy as possible. We're not gonna have time to sing today because I'm trying to cover last week and this week, so you guys can have everything. All right. Let me go to let's go ahead and refresh on week 4. I know it was a lot to take in. All right, week 4. You guys have your simple sentence rules. You guys get your simple sentence rules out. So you can follow along, it'll be easier. Did you get some? All right. Yes, yeah, okay, yeah, okay. It looks like this. You know, the steps to use. Yeah. You have to tell them the thought. Make 3 more comments. 4 more comments. For the simple steps rules here, while he's making copies, I'll just read it to you guys. Look at your papers if you have them. All right. And the good thing about this module is this is the rules for the first person, the second person, and the third person present tense. The only thing that changes is step 3, because you're talking even about first person, I, second person, you, or the third person, which is he, she, it, or they. Okay, so this is the rules for all of this module. So that's the good news. You only have 1 set of rules for this module. All right, so let me just go over it. I'll read it. You guys look at your paper, or you can look up here at the board. And right here, let me make sure I got it on. Oh, there we go. Okay. Just want to make sure that those online can view it, you know, with any kind of choices on. All right. Well, first of all, we're doing simple sentence present tense. We're conjugating in present. What's happening now? All right. The present tense step to drop the ETV, and this is going to make sense when I go through my slides. But just listen and think about, you know, the steps. First one, you drop the ETV. Second step is you elevate the verb stem. You lengthen the final vowel of the verb stem. The final vowel is a V, change it to an A, unless it's followed by MK, NK, or T. If it is, leave it a V. The rest of the final vowels get a long marker. Like I said, it'll make more sense when I show you guys. But just you know, hang in with me. And then step 3, add the person marker, I, it, and there's no person marker for third person. But for those of us who are used to going in steps, I have this placeholder for third person. So you will see on my notes, it's either this or open and close parentheses. And that just means that this is holding a place of the third person, but there's really no third person. All right. And then number 4, you add a declared ending S or ES. And here are the whole group of steps. Step 1, you drop the ETV to get the verb stem. Step 2, you elevate the verb stem and link the final vowel of the verb stem. If the final vowel is a V, change it to an A unless it's followed by MK, NK, or T. If it is, leave the V. The rest of the vowel get a long mark over. So elevate means lengthen, so you lengthen the final vowel of the verb stem. Elevate shows tense. So if you had MVM, elevate grading, it would turn to MAM. Like I said, this is going to make sense when I show you the steps. All right. This is the final vowel, last vowel in the verb stem would be MVM, it returned to MAN. The final vowel can also be the only vowel in the verb stem. I don't know if you guys remember, but we had looked at the word Ayida, and it started with a V, and we were able to see how it changed to an A because of these. I'll see if I can pull that one up, and at the end, and show you guys what I'm talking. Okay, it says V becomes an A unless it's followed by N or T. All other vowels will be lengthened by adding the long mark over the final vowel. A, I, O, E would have a long mark. Third step is add a person marker. I is, and then our placeholder that we have here. So I is for nothing. Person marker shows who's doing the action. I is the first person. It is the second person, which means you. The third person does not have a marker, so it's represented in my notes with this symbol or open and close parentheses. No person marker made this third person. Third person translated to literal English means she, he, they, it in the singular. So even if you're talking about it's still one person, or one whatever you're talking about, the dog or the cat, it's still one. And then they, this is just going over what I said. They can be many or one, but since we're using just one here, if you do put it, if you use they, just put SNG so that we know you're talking about singular. And this goes on that whenever you start learning more sentence structure, these are just notes to help you, in your language journey to keep you straight on some of these rules. All right, and number 4, add a declarative ending, S or ES. Declarative endings are the periods. They also mean am, are, is, and then period. All right, so I know that's a long thing to go through. But all of these steps, when you're conjugating your when you're conjugating your verbs, you get a little discombobulated. It's been a long day. But when you conjugate your verbs, and like I showed you, I only showed you 8 verbs, so I don't want to overwhelm you because I know I get overwhelmed when I'm presented with a lot of information. But these are the rules that go along with our module 1. So that's good that you don't have to have different rules all in one get together here. All right. All right, let's see. It's Jay. Glad you could make it today. Let me just get back into my Google Drive here. Have you been able to stay up with the recordings?
I got into the Google Drive.
Okay.
And looked at that again. Did you get my email?
I have not. I've been at a conference today. The first day I'm physically teaching. A question?
Nope. I'm ready to go if you are.
We're reviewing right now because this is week 6. This is our final week. And this is a review of the 4th week that we had our last class this 4th week, because last week we didn't have a class because it was on Good Friday. So this is all things that we had gone over. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask either through chat or you could just unmute. All right. So I'm just showing the steps. Have you seen the steps before on conjugation? All right. So get your papers out and go along with me for the conjugation. This is why I showed you that it'll make sense now. It should make sense. If you have any questions, then ask. But get your papers out for the conjugation. And you see here, pay it up. It's to make. So you drop the ETB on the verb stem. You guys got your papers out? Oh, the new papers. I'm not sure if I printed this one out because we're just reviewing from 4. So it would be in your pile of papers, but not this one, because we're just reviewing. So you don't have to look at your paper and just look up here and then we'll go over it. So like I said, just get your rules out so you can see the conjugation steps. So step one, you drop the ETB, it reads the verb stem. So you drop this ETB, this is your verb stem. And according to our rules, A is the final vowel. After you drop the ETB, A is the final vowel, so it gets the long one over it. According to our rules. The next step is add the first person marker. So we're talking right now, we're talking about first person, I. So you add a person marker because in our notes, I is the first person. And then the next step is add a declarative ending, which is am, are, is. It also means the period. So since this is a vowel, you don't put another vowel next to it. So that's why it's just the S and not the is. All right. And this is what it means, you know, in a different format that I show you. So this is the verb stem. You see that you lengthen the A because of our notes. This is the person marker in blue. And then the green is the declarative ending. So that's where you get everything. That's where the steps come involved. And also means a period. So you've got right here, you got theta to make. Oh, I should have put the long mark over. Hayes. So if you get confused, and I know, you know, if you haven't spoken Mvskoke in a while, you just sound it out, and Mvskoke sounds like you hear Mvhayv Barnett say. So it needs to be E, E, A, C. So that's the Mvskoke sounds, which, you know, we usually call the alphabet. So if you get confused, you can always backtrack and go to your sound. E, A, C. Yes. Did you hear the yes? You hear the A, which is the and then yes. All right, did that help you? Because I know sometimes if I haven't spoken Mvskoke in a while, I have to refer back to the sounds because it's so easy to get out of the Mvskoke brain, you know, and it's so easy to slip back into English because we hear it and see it and use it every day. So like yes. So you went from to make to I am making. So that is a complete sentence. All right. All right, some of these are a little discombobulated, a little out of order, but let me go through it anyway. And like I said, this is just review. So, hompida, to eat. This is my favorite one because this is the one that I'm familiar with. And I was talking to one of my other classes, and I was like, you know, I like to use a lot of foods as you know, examples because if you think of the Mvskoke language and the sounds, you know, like the A sound and then you know, chi, egg, and eat. It's almost like it's the spices in a soup. You know, if you don't have it just right, you know you're getting there, but you're not quite there making their soup really nice. But when you hear the speakers speak, it's like they've got that recipe. You know, it's like just perfect. You're like, you can feel the power and the strength of the words of Mvskoke. That's why I you know, like this hompida is because I like to think of our speakers as having that secret ingredient, a secret recipe. And when you hear them, you're like, I want to sound like that. I want to be smooth like that. You know, like I said, we're all trying to get there. And Mvhayv Barnett, we were talking, and she's like, I'm still learning too. So I think, you know, as you know, language is a lifetime. So she's, you know, she's been a speaker, you know, she's grown up hearing the words, she's spoken the words from as a child. But she said, I'm still learning too. So that made me feel good that, you know, not only am I learning, but everybody's learning journey because they didn't have cars or internet. You know, we have to work around these new words. All right, we go back to, okay. Do you have a question? I guess I'm not sharing. I think that's what it was. Share. All right, well, thank you for letting me know. Sometimes it's hard to see where I'm actually at on this. All right, a bit of heat. Get your, go with your notes. You drop the ETV, you create the verb stem. So you've got HOMP, that's our verb stem. You lengthen the final vowel, which is the O. You put the long mark over the O. And you add your person markers, so it's I. You add your declarative ending, which means am, are, is. It also means a period. You got your verb stem, you got your person marker, and you got your declarative ending, so base. So you went from to eat to I am eating. So that's a complete sentence. That's making sense. And like I said, I know it's a lot at once to get through all of the steps. And this is the one right here. I'll show you this one since we're on this this one. Oh yeah, so you start with the V. Look at your notes. You drop the ETV. Your verb stem is VY. Your final vowel is the U, not the I forgot to change this. Your final vowel is the V. So this should be V. And so you're changing this V according to our notes to an A. So remember on our notes, it says if the final vowel is a V, change it to an A. So that's what we did. So V becomes the A unless it's followed by NK, NK, or T, which it is not, because that's the verb stem. That's how that one starts out as a V and changes to an A. I know there's a lot of questions about that, so I don't have to go through that one. There's your added person marker, your declarative ending, S, and you've got your verb stem, your person marker, and your declarative ending. So you went from to go. Yes, I am going. All right. I know that's a lot to take in. So this is the first one. Yes. So we are going, like I said, we're trying to go through this really fast because this is some things that we have already gone over. But since it's been a while, I wanted to refresh your memory. Does anybody have any questions so far? So that was the first person. Let me see if I can find the second person. Here's the second person. Umbrella. This should be to eat, not to go. So just mark that out if it says to go, it's to eat. Umbrella. Second person. Drop the ETV. You get your final vowel. There's your final vowel. You put your mark over your final vowel. And then the second person marker, which is you, is it's ETSK. It's. That means you. So we're not talking about I anymore, we're talking about you. Mvskoke. See, since there's not, since that is not a vowel, you add the ES. That's why you got ES instead of just ES. So your declarative markers am, are, is, and the period. Your verb stem, your it's is your person marker because it's the second person you. Declarative endings, meaning am, are, is, also means a period. Mvskoke. All right, can you see that how it's starting to flow into a pattern? Everything is the same rules except for the person marker. And it's a tongue twister when you're not used to saying it. So Mvskoke. So if you want to, you just kind of right here, which is the verb stem. It's is the person marker is Mvskoke. You can break it down. to help you pronounce it. That's why I do it in different colors so you can see the different parts of the sentence. I know it's a mouthful. So everybody repeat after me. Mvskis. There you go. Mvskis. I know, like I said, I'm still learning, so my tones are not exact, but I have it on PowerPoint, so we will hear the speaker speaking it in later on. All right, so I know you guys have to leave early, so I'm going to try to cover the third person, so you guys won't miss that. If we've got second sentences, but I want to try to cover third person so they can see that before we have to do. All right. That to eat. Remember, mark that off and put to eat, not to go. This is third person. You drop the ETV and there's your verb. O is the final vowel, so they put a long marking. So when I was talking to one of the Mvhayvs, they said the O, anything that has a long mark over it, if it doesn't change the sound, which the only one I was told was changes the sound is the E. So if you go from it, which is the short sound, to E because it has a long mark over it. The other ones, they said just lengthen it, just mean holding it a little bit longer when you're speaking. That's what lengthening it is. So you put the long mark over the O. Like I said, third person has no marker. So I have to put a placeholder. So that's my placeholder. So there is no third person marker in my notes. You will see that, and that's my placeholder. So I know I don't skip a step. Kind of like doing the long math. I have to do the long math. There's some people who can just do it in their head, but that's not me. So I figured there's other people like me who have to go step by step. That's why I use that for my person marker. So the next step is add the declarative ending. Is. S is also the period of the sentence. Write it down. Your verb stem in red. No person marker, like I said, that's a placeholder. And the declarative ending, ES. At the end, there is no placeholder. So that's what it was. Home base. So if you're trying to sound it out, he, o, me, he, it, see. Home base. But sometimes I know, like, I get confused, I have to go back and I have to sound it out with each time. So that's how you see your third person marker. You go from Mvhayv to eat, home base. And this means he is eating, she is eating, they are eating, it is eating. So if you see nothing there, you know it's a third person. But if you see the I, what person is it? First person. If you see the it, what person is it? The second person. And the third person has no one. All right. So go from I am eating, you are eating, to he, she, it, and they are. And one of the questions that came up was, when would you use it? Because you're talking about one thing, and I was like, if a dog runs in and drops the bone and takes off, what happened? It left the bone. That's when you would use it. Is it still singular? And you would use it. All right. First one, let's go for the person again. It's good to drink. You drop the ETV, get your verb stem. Lengthen the final vowel, which is E, so now it's got the long E sound. E. It was the one before. It's good. Easy. So we E. You add your person marker. That's why I put right here in some of my notes. You see that close and open parentheses. That's the placeholder again, because the third person has no marker. You add the declarative ending, which is is, and then you add an S or ES, And then the also means the period. So here's another breakdown. Your verb stem, ESK. There's no person marker, that's our placeholder. You got the declarative ending, meaning MR is period. So East case. East case. So you went to drink, to he is drinking, she is drinking, they are drinking, or it is drinking. That's where you get the MR is, depending on who you're talking about. He is drinking, she is drinking, they are drinking. So, does that make sense? Does that help you guys? Like I said, I know it's a lot to take in, but this is just a very simple breakdown of just one part of Mvskoke language. And like I said, this is something to add to your toolbox of learning. Sometimes if you can't, it takes a long time sometimes to speak it. And sometimes, like for me, I have to write it and then I have to look at it and then I can speak it. But it starts getting easier once you practice, you know, because you're like, oh, okay, this is first person. This is how to conjugate. This is second person. Same thing, it's just you're changing the person. I, it's, and I. So that is all of module 1 in a box. Let's see. Is that starting to make sense for everybody? Does anybody have any questions so far? Like I said, I know it's a lot to take in, but once you see it, like I said, in the breakdowns that I have, it starts to make sense. And that's why I color code everything. That's why I try to do it step by step. And then, like I was telling you guys before, sometimes we need training wheels. And the color coding and the step by step is my training wheels. And once you start to learn, oh, this is how we conjugate, this is how to do this. You don't need those training wheels. You probably won't have to have the when you write your notes, you won't need this right here as a placeholder because you already know it has no image there for the third person. So you can go just go from this conjugated word to knowing what exactly it said. That's what excited me was ethos, is kefera, was to learn. So this is ethos. You got to give ethos. And remember the R's got this ethos. So now you know this whole thing is a sentence. Learning he is. Or you could be the same word, not change. Learning she is. Learning it is. Learning they are. That, all of that could be in this one book. But to show you guys, I chose learning he is. Does that make sense? All right. I keep asking if it makes sense because I don't want to lose anybody. I want to make sure you guys all, you know, sometime here you guys can ask questions. Man, do you have any questions? No? Does it start to make sense?
It is, yeah. It's reminding.
And that's it. Sometimes you have to go over it and over it to remember. You know, those of us who learn English, it's easy to flip back and then think of a R, you know, for, or sometimes, you know, another language and they do that. It's just, you know, so that I know trips a lot of people up. And like I said, just go back to your alphabet because I know I do that all the time. There's times when even our Mvhayvs, we sat there and asked questions. We're like, is that the is it, or is it the option? Because, you know, A, sometimes you see, even in some of the literature, we see that sometimes the A is an A and sometimes it's a B, like Inga, like you're welcome, you know, or acknowledgement is E-N-K-A or E-N-K-B. I've seen it both of those. So is it Inga or Inga, you know?
When you say, how are you? You say that.
How are you? That's from Pro. No, oh, Stongo.
It's
Stongo.
I would say.
You could say, and you could say, estão quesos. Estão quesos. There's other ways you can answer that question, but that's the like.
So you got me.
Oh no. But that's one of the ways. Estão quesos. And there's other ways you can say, say doing fine or it's not so good, but that's usually our beginner way of having a conversation. All right. Okay. So now, let's see, we got actually a lot more time than I thought we would. But like I said, I wanted to cover that because I knew they had to leave. And so I'm going to show you the sentences that we had made. And it's the exact same sentences, but it's in first, second, and third person. So you can print it out, or I think they're printed out. Okay, they are printed out. You can look at them and you can see just the one difference is the person marker. So that helped reinforce, oh, this one little thing is changed. So, and it makes a complete difference in this. Okay, here are our simple sentences here. When I do these simple sentences, I'm using our vocabulary words. So all of these these look similar or familiar because these are our vocabulary words. And that's why when I made the vocabulary words, I was trying to think of what kind of sentences at the end of module can we make that would make sense, because we are just making simple sentences. So on our Mvskoke sounds, we had Mvskoke, which is church. Mvskoke, yes. I'm going to church. You guys have that? Okay. Then Desiray, yes. I'm making bread. Desiray, yes. I'm making cheese. So from just the small amount that we've already learned, we're making sentences. So I think that's exciting because we went from alphabet to sounds, 2-letter sounds, 3-letter sounds, vocabulary to conjugation to making simple sentences. Oh, this is the first one. And then I'm making great numbers. I am buying gum. I am buying turkey. I am buying corn. Make sure I'm screen sharing the right thing. Yeah, okay. Home base. I'm eating fried bread. Home base. I am eating blue bread. Biscuits. I am drinking corn drink. Biscuits. I am drinking milk. Peaches. I am seeing chicken. Peaches. I am seeing, and you kind of know it's true. I'm seeing true. Peaches. I am seeing a chair. Mvskoke, peaches. I am learning Mvskoke language. So I like that part. So now you know how to say it in Mvskoke. Learning Mvskoke language. Does anybody have any questions on that? Like I said, after we go over this, I will play the one with the speaker so you can hear how smooth it is, and that's where we're trying to get to. Because I know that I'm still, I know I sound choppy, but good thing is I can see that I've progressed. So you guys are going to go on this journey and progress with me. So we'll just do it that way. Which one?
The last one.
The last.
The last sentence.
Mvskoke, Naga, Evis. I am learning Mvskoke language. And like I said, I have the PowerPoint with the speaker saying it. It sounds really smooth, but just practice, and then you'll get it. And this is still all on the Google Drive, so if you guys have access to the computer, you can click on it and you can hear the PowerPoint practice. So you can hear the first speaker speaking this. That's one of the good things about technology now than when I had it. We had to remember how it sounded in class, and I was like trying to make phonetics. Oh, just every little syllable. But now we've got the capability to actually go back and listen to it. Oh, goodness. One of the things that I need to practice on is this Google Drive. Sometimes I don't want to work. Here we go. I know I've been having to go through this, and to be fair, I'm not the only Mvhayv that's having these issues. It's not the user all the time. It's not the user. All right. So you've got your first person sentences right here. This is the PowerPoint. And you can hear them sentence.
Mvskoke, yes. Takalagi, yes. Wagabisi, takalagi, yes. Mvskoke, yes. Ilungwa, nieces. Kinwa, nieces. Ajib, nieces. Takalagi, Sakmoski, ubes.
Kind of get to the next slide.
Jagahaga, ubes. Abaski, iske. Wagabisi,
Well, just look underneath her.
Tolosi, ijes. Ido, ijes. Poglegida, ijes. Mvskoke, Ogonaga, ijes.
We've got, like I said, this is this little, this one screen is different than ours at the office. Trying to navigate something that's completely different than what I'm used to. All right. And I usually have a keyboard, so that makes it a little easier when I'm trying to navigate through this. All right, so do you have any questions? I know you've been in some of the classes, but I know this is kind of all a refresher. But did you have any questions or anything to add? All right, okay. All right, so did you get to hear how smooth she made it sound? This is the second half. I'm sorry, but this one, I don't have a keyboard to go to the next page. And I'm not sure how to do it. If you want me to play it again, just look at your notes and look at your printout, and you will see, her going down through each one of these. Would you like to play it again? Make sure you have your notes so you can go to page 2. Right? So it's just. There we go. Yay. All right. So look at your pieces of paper, and I'm going to play it again. Watch how she pronounces everything. And like I said, it's really smooth because she's been speaking.
Mvskoke, yes. Takalagi, yes. Wagabisi, takalagi, yes. Mvskoke, yes. Ilungwa, nieces. Kinwa, nieces. Ajib, nieces. Takalagi, Sakmoski, ubes. Jagahaga, ubes. Abaski, iske. Wagabisi, iske. Tolosi, ijes. Ido, ijes. Poglegida, ijes. Mvskoke, Ogonaga, ijes.
All right. You hear the last one, because we'll be on it. Okay. So that is the first person. And let's go to the second person. All right, this is gonna be similar. She's gonna, I'm gonna go through it first. The second person, simple sentences. So I'm gonna go through it, I'm gonna pronounce it, and then I'm gonna play the slideshow. You're gonna have to look on your paper because I don't have a keyboard hooked up to this. So it'll get through the first page, but then you'll have to look on your papers for the second page. Did you get a handout? Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, can you get Amanda a copy of a handout? Does anybody have a handout? I can have it. Okay.
I'll share.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just not getting what's going to access to Google Drive. I'll print it out.
Okay, if you could look with the second step, yeah, look at the second. We'll get a copy after class. All right. So if you could just look with second sentences, then I'll go ahead and start. All right, so here you see simple second sentence, second person simple sentences. Take a subset to go. Remember, I'm sorry, you are going to church. The lady, you are making bread. Waga busy, the lady is, you are making cheese. But your auntie is, you are making bread company. You go for it, you are buying gum. Benoit, you are buying turkey. Edgy, you are buying corn. Legs of multi biscuits, you are eating fried bread. Jarahaga biscuits, you are eating blue bread. A busky is biscuits, you are drinking corn drink. Waga biscuits, you are drinking milk. The lozi is just you're seeing chicken, it'll you are seeing a tree. You are seeing a chair. Skogi of another, this case, you are learning the Skogi. So you see it's the same sentences, the only thing that changed was the person. It's no longer I, it's it, because that's you. We went from I to you. All right. Is that easier to see the same sentences in different, with the different people, person marker. All right, so let me go ahead and start the slideshow. Like I said, this was kind of rushed, so I wasn't able to break up the audio. That's why we're having a little issues here. So this is the first. This is the speaker speaking it, and I think there's one of them, and I lost some things. Okay, this was the Mvhayv. It's one of them that's kind of
Because of the IHDs,
Coco.
the lady IHDs. Wagabisi, the lady IHDs. But go after IHDs. Ilokwa, Nisi Keys. Benoit, Nisi Keys. Edgy, Nisi Keys.
Look on your paper for the second part.
The flag support Mvskoke.
That was here.
Jarahaga Mvskoke. A busky is Kitskis. Wagabishi is Kitskis. The Rosary Ejitskis. Ido Ejitskis. Of Legida Ejitskis. Mvskoke, Obanaga, Kijitski.
Guys, hear the difference, you know?
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm still learning, so I know I don't have that smooth sound. But you have, see how smooth and how effortless, you know, it sounded. That's what we're trying to work towards. So that's why I like to record these, so you guys can practice from first speaker sound, you know? You're not gonna get secondhand sound from me. It's just like when you're learning another language, you wanna learn from a person who actually lives in that country. So we're talking to our speakers. That's why I like to record them. I'll go over it in class, so you can hear the differences. But, you know, you can hear how we are trying to find that secret ingredient and capture those tones and sounds that makes it so rich. All right. There we go. Time to get a little cranky here. All right, so that is the second person. Let's go to the third person simple sentence. Like I said, this all is the same except for, you know, the person markers. You see right here, it's smaller because it doesn't have the it. You know. All right, third person. Biga sabko chugo hayes. Dot lady hayes. Waga bibi dot lady hayes. Bako aki hayes. Ilokwan. Benwa mises. Aji mises. Lady sabmoki hayes. Jadahaga mises. The Vatsky mises. Waga mises. The Lord's images. Ero images. Ogleda images. Mvskoke of another images. All right. Does anybody have any questions before we just? Like I said, you're gonna have to turn your page on your documents. I was on the first page. Here we go.
English subject, maybe, Magapisi, Chakuregi, but for asking, Ilokwa, Nisi, Benwa, Nisi, Aji, Nisi,
You're gonna have to find out the paper.
Saklek, Sakmoki, Umbis, Yadahaga, Umbis, Abaski, East, Kapisi, East, Dolores, Aegis, Edo, Aegis, Legida, Aegis, Mvskoke, Obanaga, Kijitski.
You see hear her little, just a little differences, you know, just pronunciation. What I'm trying to capture for you guys, because, you know, like I said, a lot of us don't hear the first speakers unless, you know, we get online or, you know, go to some of these classes. And I want to be able, you guys to be able to capture the little differences when that first speakers. All right, so that's the third person. Does anybody have any questions on anything? So, like I said, this is the final class for this module. So in this class, we went from learning our alphabet. Since we have a little time, we can go ahead and review that. Learning our sounds, and you always hear, you can hear Mvhayv say sounds, and that's she's referring to alphabet. Because it says we have sounds and tones, and but those of us who are, you know, learn English think alphabet. That's why I put in top letters alphabet. Let's go ahead and say our alphabet. A, G, T, I, N, E, P, 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 A, A, P, P, B, 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 D, O, E, B, C, or D, C, C, D, we, ye. All right, let me go ahead and say in our Mvskoke sounds, I'm gonna spell something out. And as soon as you hear these sounds, think of these letters and let me know what I'm spelling. And I know it can be hard. Okay, let me think of the first one. Okay, so A, Lee, A, C. Iris. So I actually not A, I'm sorry. Even I got mixed up. Lee, C, Iris. So that makes you think, doesn't it? It makes you think. Because I do this all the time. I'm sitting there thinking, how can I make this go? You know, how can I practice it? And it's something easy like that. If you have a cat or a dog, and you know, name this, you know, something just sounded out. Here's another one. This one's B, I, D, E. Yes, it has the two E sounds, I and E. So that one threw a lot of people when I did that one in our class. Let's see. Here's another one. Me, A, me. Me, A, me. Maine. Yes. And the reason why I put that out there is because we're driving around, we see, you know, signs, Main Street, you know, First Street, you know, stop sign. These are little opportunities for you to think Mvskoke. And once you start thinking Mvskoke more, you're going to start remembering. And like I said, when I go over this stuff, just listen to me, because one of these days you're going to be sitting there at work or driving or just sitting there, you know, eating something. You're like, it makes sense because your mind is awesome. It remembers, and it'll all of a sudden click, and you'll have that aha moment. I call it aha moment. Aha, that's what she meant, or that's how it's used. You know, so just these little things to keep your mind and your thoughts in the Mvskoke language help switch your Mvskoke, your English brain to Mvskoke brain. One of the things that go ahead.
I always wondered how my mom and dad learned, because they didn't go to school
Right.
to learn this.
Yeah.
We taught them. Was it the missionaries that made this up, or was it another union that made it up?
Usually, like the first speakers, when I talk to them about how they learned, they just learn from doing. You know, like my grandbaby. I'm like, I pick up something and say it's pink, I'm like Johnny Omi. And then I point, you know, like, go get me something. These are non-verbals, which can help reinforce some of the teaching. Johnny Omi, and I'll point that way, or something. She'll run over there and grab something pink. She wants me to see that she understands what I'm talking about. And a lot, if you remember, you know, even your own kids in English, you know, you're like, ooh, hot. You know, hey is hot in the spring. So, you know, just little things like that. They don't realize they're learning. But if you're, you know, by a stove and you're cooking, you're like, oh, hey. Or you can say, oh, hot. They're learning. They're not being sat down and learned. This is the rules. They're learning through absorption. And one of the things that I learned for language acquisition when I went to college was between the ages of in utero, because they're learning in utero. In utero to about 6 years old is the best time to learn languages. And they were showing that, you know, kids can learn more than one language at the same time and keep it straight.
So,
Yeah.
Actually, we lived there for a lot of night, and I could speak Yeah, but then we have that in the city.
Yeah.
Thank you, God.
right? But the good thing is it's still there, it's just kind of hidden, and you have, just like anything. You know, if you practice your, bodybuilding, and then you quit for a couple years, your muscles are still there. It's just, they're not in the shape they used to be, and that's the same with language. And, the language is still there, it's just, dormant, it's just like, okay, I'm waiting for her to use me, But once you start learning, you'll remember the thing, because I didn't grow up hearing a lot of this, but I knew words like owa, give me some owa, water. I'm going to go chugaji, okay, going to the restroom, You don't want to say I'm going to the bathroom in a restaurant, so I'm like, I'm going to chugaji, and they're like, oh, okay. But, some of these little things, and sometimes, it'll just come back to you. Some of the things that my mom said that I didn't pay attention, how you're young, you don't pay attention. And then when you're older, you're like, dang, I should have asked the question. Now some of these things are coming back into my mind because they've always been there. And now I'm trying to find them. And it's almost like some of these precious stones, they work their way up to the top. In your mind, it's working its way up because we're using the language again. So for those of you who've spoken the language as a youth, you're going to find it. It's going to come to you, and sometimes it'll come to you in a different moment. You're like the driver. Oh my gosh, I remember this. It's exciting. Thor, did you have any questions? I think that's all I've got for everybody. Let me go ahead and say that this is our last class for one. I've got 2 weeks until I start a new class. So it's going to be on Zoom, and we're looking at whether you guys want to continue having me come here and then also doing Zoom, because my title is virtual language instructor, but Mr. Fox, who runs this the resource center, he reached out to us, and I told him, like, look, I think I could do both at the same time. So the language grant that we got covers a virtual. And I'm like, I can do virtual, and I can do in person in Oklahoma City if that's what you guys would like. So let me just, okay, all right, Thor. Next week, Mvhayv Eli is starting her new class. She's the lady who is the more of the linguist. So she'll show sentence structures. She knows Korean, she knows a couple of languages. But she's really good at asking questions for sentence structure and more of my daughter always says geek stuff, on how the ins and outs on how to create a proper sentence. She's got the verbs, pronouns, nouns, stuff that we kind of remember. But she's really good at all that. But that's starting next week. It's from 1 to 3, and I'm not sure what days, but if you have any questions, you call up the office. They'll give you the link and the dates and times. Mvhayv Barnett still has her classes on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday from noon to 1. Like I said, I have 2 weeks in between to prepare my new lessons, and we're going to just, like I said, try to go in steps, because that's how we all learn. I mean, those of us who haven't heard it and grown up with the language, that's how we learn. It's just, one step on top of the other, and just keep going forward. All right, Flora, and thank you for coming. Hello. Please. I'll see you next time. Hello. All right, thank you for coming. And then Clive, thank you for coming.
No, I've really enjoyed it.
Well, thank you. Like I said, we've got Mvhayv Eli, and she's going to start from scratch as well. If you need to refresh, and that starts next week. So I encourage everybody to take all of our classes. It doesn't matter what Mvhayv, you learn something. All right.
The color coding has really assisted me, and I want to second Thor's question of where we go to get the class schedule, because honestly, I don't remember how I got registered for this.
All right, that's a good question. So I know our Facebook page, I think has the new classes there, I think the Instagram page. But our Mvskoke program, if you call the machine number, then they can get you hooked up with the dates and times and even the Zoom ID numbers. So, and I don't have that phone number on me right now, but you go to the Mvskoke Creek website, go to the language department, and there should be contact information there, and they will get that to you. All right?
No.
No,